What's up?
Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me we have some more RPG horror stories for today. I sound extra excited for today. I don't know why. I just am in a good mood. If you didn't know, D&D Shorts is hosting a homebrew for artificer competition, which sounds actually really exciting, as it basically allows many people, including myself, an amateur idiot, to try their hand at homebrewing an artificer subclass. And apparently the runner-ups and winners get payment reward or something. I don't know. Give it a check out. Check out D&D Shorts over on YouTube and watch the video. They talked about basically setting up like a whole bounty hunt thing of people submitting the homebrew stuff, and I am throwing my hat into the ring. Maybe one day I'll talk about my homebrew subclass for artificer once we figure out who the winners are. I'm probably not going to be the runner-up or the winner, but a tiefling can dream. Anyway, let's get to the first story for today. My DM gave me a gun, then nerfed me into diapers. So, a now former friend of mine invited me to join his homebrew D&D campaign. He knew I was a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, and thought it would be fun for me to play a character inspired by Solid Snake. A fantasy mercenary version, of course. I was totally down. I told him I didn't care about stats or min-maxing. I just wanted to make dumb snake quips and snipe people from a distance. He was a little hesitant about guns in a fantasy setting, but I told him to give me whenever he wanted. I just wanted a range fighter and was cool with any homebrew rules he made. So he rolled my stats, gave me a unique rifle called the Viper's Bite, and said if I found any vanilla feats that broke his custom rules, to run them by him. Sounded fair. I immediately found a feat that negated the reload property of my rifle and showed it to him. "Oh dude, run that. That's hilarious," he said. So I did. If you talk about the gunner feat, it doesn't necessarily... Actually, no, I don't think it ignores the reload. Does it ignore the reload? Or loading property? Because like some firearms, it depends on firearms, depends on what kind of rules you run. Like some weapons they'll have a loading property, of course, but some of them have a reload property too. I believe if it's like multiple, like, I don't know, bullets all at once, you know, you kind of load into the magazine or into the chamber and you fire back to back, kind of like an old school rifle or something. Ignores the reload property or the loading property. I think it might be, you know what, I'm looking it up. I'm just looking it up. Oh, according to this, a gunner ignores the loading property of the firearm. But it has other cool things, such as increase the dexterity score by 1, you gain proficiency with firearms, all firearms, ignore the loading property of firearms, and be within 5 feet of a hostile creature doesn't impose disadvantage on your ranged attack rolls. That last part is my favorite. My players love that specific part. But yeah, if it ignores the loading property, I mean, depends on what kind of guns you're running, what kind of rolls you're running. I usually treat it as, yeah, if you have this feat, you don't gotta reload. It's okay. It's no problem. Because otherwise you gotta reload as a bonus action and it just eats up a bonus action. But if you have this feat, yeah, you're fine. You're good. Also, yeah, in my campaign, I love having firearms. I think that's so cool. Maybe it's the American in me, but guns are cool. We started the campaign and things are going great. I'm leading the party on a mission to take down a corrupt kingdom. We fight a sketchy royal priest, then gear up to storm the king's castle. My rifle, now reloading free, was pulling serious weight in fights, letting me make multiple attacks per round. The rest of the group loved the snake roleplay. I was having a blast. Everything was smooth. Until it wasn't. Out of nowhere, the DM starts talking to me about this wild Tempest Cleric build he found online. Something that could deal like 120 damage per hit. He laughs and says, "I could use this to TPK the whole party." I nervously chuckled and said, "Sounds pretty meta," but didn't think anything more of it. Then we meet the king, and surprise, he's a Tempest Cleric. Oh, I know where this is coming. Wait a minute, have I read this story before? No, I haven't read this story before. I heard this story before. It sounds so familiar. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the first time I heard this story was either... This is my first video that I heard of Den of the Drake. He covered this specific story forever ago. This is my very first story that I discovered Den of the Drake with. What a flashback. What a flashback. Also, I feel like what's going on here is maybe your character is maybe a little bit overpowered. So your DM is like, hey, if I need to like plot to like take out the one person breaking my game, I guess I could, or something. That, or your DM is just going crazy and ballistic trying to make some busted builds, or just a coincidence that this king is a Tempest Cleric. Maybe it has actually nothing to do with anything whatsoever. The king completely ignores the rest of the party and focuses solely on me. I had around 100 HP. He hits me 3 times with his busted 120 damage attack and practically dusts me on the spot. If it weren't for our bard reviving me, I would have been it. Whoa, hold on. By one turn or just over multiple turns? Because I don't know how it works. I think Tempest Cleric has this thing where if you're using a thunder or lightning spell, you basically do max damage at all times, which means like spells like lightning bolt will always do maximum damage regardless of what dice you rolled, which can be kind of cool. Actually, do they get lightning bolt? I need to study Tempest Cleric. There's a lot of cleric subclasses. There's so many cleric subclasses, but I need to study them all and figure out what their general mechanics are. Because now that I think about it, I don't think I know many cleric subclasses. I know nature, twilight, life. I think that's it. Oh, death as well. But that's it. I need to change this up quickly. After the session, I ask him privately if everything's cool. He straight up tells me, I just don't like how much damage your rifle does. What? If they don't like how much damage your rifle does, you don't just be like, hey, let's bring in an overpowered Tempest Cleric that can down this player so we can remove him off the face of the earth. You have a conversation with player and say, hey buddy, I think your rifle might be overpowered. Is it okay if we rebalance some of this stuff so that maybe, you know, it's not too powerful? Actually, how powerful is it? Okay, fine. I tell him I'm happy to adjust whatever needs changing. Just let me know. His fix? He nerfs my gun's damage from 2d12 to 2d6. 2d12? What level are you? Okay, assuming maybe you're like what, level 5? You have multi-attack, so probably level 5, assuming maybe like a fighter or something. So maybe, you know, 2 attacks. If you're fighter, you have action surge. 2d12 is a ton of damage. It's ridiculous amount of damage. I think it's more damage than, I think it's higher damage roll than, is it higher damage roll than like a Frost Giant's axe? I think it might be. Maybe that's, is that 3d12? I don't know. 2d12 is a lot for a rifle, bud. Especially if you're hitting from really far away. That is nuts. Not ideal, but whatever. I keep playing. Not ideal? Wait, hold on. What is the baseline for the weapon damage for your campaign? If the baseline is like, this is, if it's, let's say, for example, normal for regular bandits to hit with 2d12 weapons, I understand that completely. But you're complaining that your rifle from far distance that snipes people from afar is doing same damage as a greatsword, and that's not ideal to you? Plus your modifier, I'm assuming you have maybe modifier of maybe dexterity of 18 or 20. That's plus 4 and plus 5 on damage roll. And then depends on your level, it's maybe plus 8 or 7 on the attack roll. That's a lot. Instead of being like a fighter or barbarian that has a great sword that does 2d12 damage up close, you can do it from range. You have a range great sword and you're complaining about that? What kind of a scaling do you have for this campaign? How is that not ideal? Fast forward a few sessions and he comments during the game that my rolls are suspiciously high. I'm using D&D Beyond. He can see every roll, but he still says, I think I gave you stats that are too good. Once again, I offer to reroll or change anything, and he declines. Instead, he introduces wraith-like enemies that rapidly age you. Of course, they latch onto me. I go full Old Snake from Metal Gear Solid 4. TM then announces I now have permanent disadvantage on everything, and the only cure is on the other side of the planet. So now the party is stuck with a senile, wheezing sniper. Then comes a shipping yard session, looking for a boat. My character is kidnapped by a cult. I'm tied to a chair and I try to use my espionage skill to escape. DM tells me to make a DC 20 check, and if I fail, you crap yourself. No kidding, I'll proceed to fail 5 times. Snake is now a senile, incontinent old man. Eventually a cultist finds me, steps on my head until I die, and that's how it ends. The rest of the party were just as confused as I was. No one could understand why the DM was singling me out, session after session. After I drop out of the game, he accused me of turning the group against him over a stupid game. I told him I didn't have to say anything. The group watched it happen. They were pissed for me. We're now running a new campaign without him, and it's been great. I can't, you know what, honestly, at this point, I have no idea if I'm remembering the story because I covered it or because I watched people cover it. I mean, yeah, that really sucks, but it really depends on the kind of like rules you use. I personally use the misfire score from Critical Role. I think it makes it more exciting, gritty, because guns are basically these delicate little pieces and they gotta function and cycle correctly. And if they don't cycle correctly, they can have a bit of a jam up. And depends on the kind of weapon you use. Sometimes the jam up can be a little bit more severe, like with a misfire score of 2 or something, if you roll 1 or 2. And it can be very expensive to fix some of the delicate parts if they do get broken. But in this way, it also makes a balance because now there's a bit of a risk when using the firearm instead of just, you know, grabbing a hand crossbow, which works because it's very simple and primitive. It's not some complex mechanism that fires a projectile at insanely high speeds and everything. I understand firearms aren't exactly like the most advanced tool ever, but I mean, hell, they're a pretty solid equalizer, and especially when it comes to having a sniper that fires with still 2d6, that's still really good. In this situation, however, obviously, yeah, it sucks being nerfed, but honestly, your character deserves to be nerfed a little bit, even just a little bit. You will start it off with an probably extremely powerful set of everything, but instead of your DM trying to fix this and balance things out, they decide to take it personally and take it on you, but trying to kill your character with a king, with a tempest cleric. That didn't work. They send ghosts on you to basically cripple your character, but you continued on even with all the disadvantages, and then your character crabbed themselves 5 times before they died. A very unfair, unceremonious death, which honestly is not justified because the DM themselves approved your character. They approved of all this stuff. They AOK'd everything. They gave a super special rifle as well. They approved this specifically because they're like, yeah, I want to give you power. I want to make you powerful and stuff. And then they get mad because of their own reasons, because of their own idiocy. Don't give players something extremely powerful without balance checking it. And if you do accidentally give somebody something overly like too powerful, talk to the player to figure out a nice balance for it. Don't just punish a player for your own mistakes. DM had nobody but himself to blame. Honestly, nobody but himself to blame. Could have just balanced things out without trying to become a bitter butthole about it. Simple as that. Let's go ahead and cover the next story for today. Man, my throat's getting a little hoarse. Hopefully I'll survive. We'll see. DM. Only dumb people ask questions during mission briefings. Game premise. Figure I share one of my own bad experiences here. Sorry for any typos. English is my first language. The game premise. This happened a few years ago. It was a game of D&D 5e, played on Discord through text chat. I don't know the DM or other players before that. The group was brought together by the DM posting an ad on some Discord server. The premise of the game was that it was set in some sort of far future of Faerun, where the Underdark was in the process of being colonized by a faction called the Surface Alliance. All level 1 characters were recently hired by the Surface Alliance to aid the colonization efforts. All of this explained in a short paragraph. I was playing a cleric of Lathander, the other players were a wizard, ranger, and I think a barbarian. Character creation. DM insisted on walking everyone through the character creation individually, even though there wasn't anything different there from regular 5e. During this process, me and the DM chatted a bit, kept praising me as the only one who didn't have any ridiculous demands, that I didn't waste his time, and filled in my sheet correctly, and lamented the fact that how hard it is to find decent players. He also kept repeating that I won't be allowed to make any changes once character creation is complete. As part of character creation, the DM also insisted on having everyone fill out their character's personality, ideals, bonds, and flaws, with only the default 5e ones being allowed. If your DM is suddenly saying, oh, it's so difficult to find good players nowadays, maybe it's a red flag basically that the DM has really high standards, expects a lot from the players, and maybe because they have such high expectations, they will never find players that are good enough for him. Maybe it's a really bad DM they should probably avoid. I don't know, man, this sort of gives me some really weird vibes. Anyway, shortly after finalizing my character creation, I thought about changing my character's ideal, which is basically just something to give the player an idea of how to roleplay the character and has no mechanical implications. Asked the DM if he would be alright with this. In response, I received a very long message where he chastised me for even asking him that. Started along the lines of, I warned you there would be any changes to a character after character creation is finished. You've surely imagined that I would give in your ridiculous demands. And it went on, berating me for wasting his time with a, hopefully one day you'll learn to understand that no means no at the end. Dude, that's a red flag right there. This is the kind of DM you need to run to the hills for. They're literally flagging themselves. I'm a pretentious nitwit, and I'm gonna be just a butthole the whole time. I hate fun. I don't like fun. I mean, okay, on one hand, yes, if a DM is probably fed up with players constantly want to adjust their sheet like over and over and over again mid-campaign, that can definitely be an issue if that's the concern here. But to go off on somebody for wanting to just change an ideal and to basically try to be so pretentious and condescending to them over this, dude, no, I'm not dealing with that. I don't want to deal with that, and you shouldn't deal with that either. If the guy wants to be a prick about changing an ideal before the game even begins, God forbid, then honestly it's just not worth playing with this game. If the guy's going to be so vehemently against changing something as minor, not mechanically important, something as minor as your play character's ideal, not his player character's ideal, your play character's ideal. You know, the thing that you give to your player character, give motivation that you want to change so you can play the character better. Oh, God forbid, what a sin you committed. I was really surprised at the sudden hostility, especially since the change I asked to make was about equivalent to changing my character's hair color. If you didn't want me to change it for whatever reason, you could have just said no. But I decided to give the DM the benefit of the doubt, figuring that he had a bad day and the other players kept pestering him with ridiculous demands, per the conversation we had earlier. so I just let it slide. The game itself. So the game starts and we get a very brief introduction. Apparently there are now many colonies in the Underdark, and the way to travel between them is by magic trains. We're on one such train, traveling to one such underground town built by the surface colonists. That's the extent of the information we were given. Immediately after getting off the train, our characters met up with a local town hall with some drow general, a high-ranking member of the Surface Alliance. We were told we know very well who this guy is, without much detail as to what we know of him. Basically just a few sentences along the lines of, this guy is a big deal, he's a hero, your characters heard of him and are impressed by his exploits. This is the first time you meet him in person. Drow General then starts a mission briefing that approximately went like this. There's a sprawling network of giant caverns nearby that seemingly stretch for miles. We need you to act as scouts, explore the cave system and see what's there in any question. So, any idea what we might expect there? What the hell, you moron? What do you think we need you to explore it? We don't know anything. I mean, what we should watch out for, or any general advice for the area. It's my first time in the Underdark. You are supposed to be the one to scout out that area. Well, you have some general idea of how big those caves must be, so presumably there were some people who discovered these caves before us. Maybe you could talk to them and learn something. No, you moron. You're going to be the first ones to ever set foot in there. Okay, well, where's the entrance to this cave system we're supposed to explore? That's one of the things you're supposed to find out. I know I'm giving the DM an annoying voice and stuff, but honestly, I just imagine like a just annoying, patronizing pissant. Just somebody that you just want to kick out of the room because they're just so grating in every capacity. On your ears, on your soul, on your forearms because they keep biting the forearms for whatever weird reason. I don't know, man. Just want to get them out of the room. But anyways, seriously, what an obnoxious way to deliver important information in character. That is some crap. This was the general way this mission briefing went. We'd ask relevant questions such as where to find supplies in town, if some monsters ever came out of those caves to attack the town, and the Drow General treated it as a dumbest possible question to ask. This was always accompanied by a passive-aggressive description from the DM, such as, by the look in the General's face, you can tell that he's obviously thinking you're a moron, or, as soon as you ask that, the General's opinion of you sinks even lower than before, and the General's thinking why he even has to work with these morons, and similar. Yeah, just keep berating your players in character all the time. Really tell us how you feel, buddy. Yeah, seriously, dude. At some point, you just gotta be like, dude, screw off. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. I'm trying to get into the game. We're trying to find out where specifically we're supposed to go. What can we get supplies so we can participate in this goddamn invasion of the Underdark, you tool? We're just trying to ask very basic questions about the general know-how. We don't know your world's lore and stuff. We don't know your world's maps. Everything that you know, we don't know. We try to learn as players. So how about you chill the hell out and just let us just absorb the information in some capacity without being an absolute prick about it. Seriously, how difficult would that be to do? Most of this was directed at the wizard since he asked most questions. DM even wrote a joke in the out-of-game chat that our characters should all have much lower intelligence score based on the way that we were role-playing thus far. Ranger then came up with the idea that since we don't know anything, our group should split up for a bit. He'll go look for the cave entrance while the rest of us will scout the town for supplies and any useful information we might learn there. The plan would be to later meet up at the town square and then go explore those caves. DM seemed to be furious at this idea. I get not wanting to split up the party, but there's better ways to communicate that. Basically, the DM wrote a long angry post in the out-of-game chat addressing to the ranger that if his character separates himself from the rest of the party even for a moment, then he'll make that as him leaving the game. DM then went out and rant about how hard it is to run the game, that one of his players, the ranger, wants to walk out of his story, and that we all don't know what being scouts means. Also that we all pester him with irrelevant and dumb questions, particularly the wizard, and that his anger at us is affecting his in-character writing, which was obvious with all the descriptions of our characters being regarded as morons. If your biggest achievement is to find ways to call somebody stupid in character, I don't think it's good writing, my man. In fact, if anything, this is bizarre. Wouldn't you want your players to engage within the world, ask questions, and actually ask stuff? How can you expect your players to just know things from the very beginning? They're scouting on an area, but they just want to ask a simple question: what area are we supposed to scout? We're giving them, what do you mean, you moron? You gotta scout out for yourself. yourselves. I can't show you what to scout. It's not going to be helpful in the slightest. If anything, you give them detrimental messages and communications that aren't going to benefit them, that aren't going to inspire them to want to look around. And God forbid they decided to actually split the party for a teensy bit just to get a general scope of the area. Suddenly, it's them walking out of your game. They probably should have walked out of the game, honestly. I don't blame the players for wanting to walk out of the game. I want to walk out of your game if I was in your game. Seriously, you're obnoxious DM. How about you shut the hell up and try to get players engaged in some capacity without being a complete cockhead? Post-game argument. DM's anger rant resulted in an argument between us and him about us not having enough information, and that those constant digs on the intelligence of our characters just for asking questions are really tiring. DM claimed that everything our character asked about it in the World Information channel, so it's our fault for not reading it. You guys are morons, apparently, for not reading the Wikipedia pages I posted. In the entire Discord post, so you have 700 pages of lore, you morons. Or you could just, you know, be a regular-ass dude and just feed them information diegetically through world interactions and asking information questions and looking at maps. No? Okay then. I guess that's the standard we're going with. God. Seriously, so infuriating. Like, I know the voice is kind of, you know, not helping me, honestly. It's making my tiefling blood boil, but to do something to another person this extent and to treat him like an idiot because you didn't tell them to read 700 pages of your dissertation for your world lore. Even if you need 700 pages of dissertation for your world lore just to even know what the hell to do is nuts, dude. It's nuts. This is not how you find other people to play with. This is how you stay forever alone and never have anybody to play with because you're so insufferable. Anyway, there was barely anything in the World Information channel. Only the basic premise of the game, that being Underdark colonization. Nothing that would be useful. So there was actually nothing there whatsoever. There was nothing useful in the first place. The guy's like, read the place here, you moron. And there's nothing even useful there. You know that one Warlock of the Fiend Pact feature at level 14 where it literally you hit a target with a spell, you can sell them through literally just waves of hell for like 6 seconds? We need to do that to the DM. We need to send him to the endless pit of hell and forever be gone. When confronted by this, the DM claimed that it should be enough and that Drow General doesn't know why we're asking him about these caves and the town, so he just arrived on the same magic train we did, which was never said previously, and knows as much as we do. Also that the Drow General only came to the Underdark this summer. Wizard pointed out that we don't even know what season it is in game, so we have no idea how long ago that is. DM responded by berating the wizard after an argument with him, claiming that he is getting really upset by the game and blames him in particular for it. Wizard apologized and DM decided to call for a short break, so we'll discuss things afterwards once everyone's calmed down. The only person that's not calmed down, honestly, is the DM. I bet the DM has no idea what it is doing, but he's probably pretending like everybody else is a moron and treating other people like a moron because this DM just lost the plot and have no idea what they're doing. And the reason they can't answer questions is probably because they don't have any answers for their players, but they're mocking them anyway, just maybe because they don't have actual answers whatsoever. This is genuinely what I think is going on. DM is incompetent, can't possibly answer questions, and just want players to meander about while he comes up with something on the go or something on the fly or something, anything. What a waste of time playing this. I am so sorry to the people involved, for real. About 20 minutes later, Wizard is no longer on the server. DM announced to us that he decided to just kick Wizard and that we're going to look for a replacement player. The Wizard is saved. Oh, praise Timora. He also told us that he explained the World Information channel a bit to stop the constant dumb questions. The only thing he added there was a short paragraph titled Seasons in the Underdark. That was basically this. Underdark is underground. There are no seasons, and it's impossible to tell what season is on the surface while one is underground. I have conniptions and murderous rage. I want to hurt someone. I want to hurt them. You told to the players that the general arrived in summer. How would the general know it's summer if they're in the Underdark and apparently can't tell seasons while in the Underdark? Oh. There's only a little bit of text left, but man, I just want to toss fireballs everywhere, dude. I'm a Hexblade. Hexblade don't get fireballs, but I just want to manifest a fireball out of just sheer hellish rage. Just start tossing tossing everywhere. Oh, this was obviously a dig at the wizard. Except when he mentioned that we don't even know what the current season is in the game. It was in response to the DM claiming the Drow General was only in the Underdark since this summer, and us not knowing how long ago that's supposed to be. So, way to miss the point. Anyway, this was enough for me. I just wrote in the out-of-game chat that I won't be playing in this game any longer and left the server. I don't know if Ranger and Barbarian left as well, but I'd be surprised if they stayed. If there are reasonable human beings that aren't gluttons for punishment, they probably left. But if there is a 0.0001% chance that maybe are masochists indeed, and this is the kind of masochism they deserve and they want to, being degraded and called stupid and morons, very low chance, but could still be possible. I mean, I think most people are safe, right? You have to be an extra level of pretentious nitwit to do this, but lesson learned. Don't do this. Don't do what's in the story. Don't be a pretentious idiot that just basically mocks players' intelligence because they're asking questions. Have them engage in the world and answer the questions in-game and get them involved in it instead of mocking them because they don't have the answers, because the section that's supposed to get the answers in is fucking empty. It's empty. There's nothing in that section for the world story except you can't tell the seasons apart that was edited later on. This is not a way to run a game or treat people whatsoever. I need to lay down. If I don't lay down and fall asleep, I'm gonna have a desire to throw something myself out of a window. Maybe I'll land in the Underdark, but will I be able to tell what season it is? Probably not. Good lord, we're done for today. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.